Welcome back to this episode of the Law of Relevancy podcast. I'm Cord Owen, and today we're joined by Leigh Harting, not Harting, Leigh Harting, who is the founder and owner of Three Daughters Brewing. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I got to say, I love this creamsicle vodka and soda drink. It's delicious.
Why, thank you. We love that. It is one of our latest evolutions, right? We're always messing with new products and what can we do, and this is a great one. It's really jumped off for us.
How many do you have now? How many different flavors?
So if you actually go into Three Daughters Brewing, which is located in St. Pete, we have over 30 taps. We probably have over 250 recipes, actually out in cans where you can find it in Publix, Target, right?
Wow.
Any of the packaged places. We probably have about a dozen.
Wow. Well, and you didn't always plan on getting in the brewing business, did you?
Oh, goodness, no, not at all. So to be fair, my husband and I are both from the hospitality industry. We met at Steak and Ale, which is a hot minute ago. And he went to Outback after that. I left hospitality and ended up going into professional services. And as he was running restaurants, he and our head chef were fooling around making beer and put it on tap, and it did well against the domestics, right, the big ones. And he was going to buy a small brewing system and brew for a restaurant, and went to California. And my mistake, I let him and the chef go without me. But they went to California to buy a 3-barrel system, which will supply enough beer for one restaurant.
Yeah.
And he found a 30-barrel system that he ended up buying and called me and said, "Guess what I got?" And I went, well, first, what's a barrel? And second, I think we're in a different industry. So yeah, a little bit of accidental getting into craft beer, but lots of fun.
What was that like at the Harting household, knowing that you've just taken a complete pivot from what you were planning on doing?
You know, it was crazy. So, the kids were kind of little. We really do have 3 girls. They were 5, 10, and 11, and he called me, and lucky for him, he was in California, I have to say. Or
I can only imagine. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, that might have been a tougher day if he were in town, but interesting and a very different path from what we were on.
And so all of a sudden, I guess a 30-barrel system, how many trucks does that take to move back here from California? My goodness.
That was a big one, bringing that back. But we ended up since finding a local vendor to make most of our tanks. So everything that we produce for the brewery is done 5 blocks away, which is kind of amazing.
And so out of nowhere, you're having to find a facility for all of this, and it's got to be bigger now or whatever. And
much bigger, yeah. So we ended up selling our interest in the restaurant, got a warehouse in St. Pete. Community is everything, so we ended up getting it from someone. Our kids went to school together. Building on that for the last 10 years, opening a second warehouse, and that's our main production facility.
Those are big bets.
It's a big bet. You got to swing for the fences sometimes. And I think we were swinging maybe when we didn't know it. Craft brewing wasn't really an industry. People knew Funky Buddha and Cigar City. But there really weren't many craft breweries. In fact, we could have a long sip over how many times we were turned down for an SBA loan to get this off the ground.
So you guys are basically risking everything and then making a huge pivot with 3 little girls at the house.
3 little girls.
And God knows how much work that is. I have 2 little baby girls at my house, and it is.
I can tell you how not to get 3.
Well, I love the 2, but I can only imagine that sounds almost chaotic in terms of
it was chaotic. We had some recipes, but we didn't know much about the brewing industry. So we get this huge system back, and we're ready to start brewing beer. And literally, everybody's walking around going, "How do we turn it on?"
Yeah.
Right? Where's the on switch? And great news for us, like people from Cigar City, others that were in the industry came, they helped, they showed us how to configure.
What's that like? Because they would technically be competitors, right?
The great thing about the craft beer industry, and especially here in Florida, it's the rising tide. It's going to rise all our boats, right?
That's great that they had that opinion. That's great that they had that same opinion. It's almost like if there's something like it's an emerging market and you get more people doing it, well, then it can help create a tide that creates awareness about this thing, and now everybody benefits from it. If you're successful, it means I'm going to be more successful.
Absolutely. And getting a local presence, right, around a market that has traditionally been dominated by Budweiser, Miller Lite, Corona, right? You name all the big ones, getting a local presence is important. And so I think we're all working together to do that.
Well, in hospitality, there's a thing called a beer crawl, and you can't do a beer crawl without having another location to go to. So
That's right.
I guess it is good if you can team up with people, and we can all make sure everybody's successful. I love that when that can come together.
Well, and you go to a beer event, right? We're all there. We all know each other, right? We work together behind the scenes. We share equipment. And if you ever go to Three Daughters in St. Petersburg, the first thing you're going to see when you walk in the tasting room is a big glass lab where we test everything that we have. We brew for other breweries. We test their stuff. So yeah, we're working together.
That's super cool. So you've procured all this equipment. I imagine the capital expense is just astronomical. You have all of this pressure. And so when do you get on the good side of the curve there? Like how do you dig yourself out of that hole?
Well, I think with any business, there's a tipping point, right? Where you get enough points of distribution, where you're selling enough beer. And that was actually how we named the company. The question was, how many beers do we have to sell to put Three Daughters through college?
Yeah.
There's some tipping point. I would say for us, we were on, the hockey stick growth. Year 6.5 is when COVID hit. Everybody talks about pivoting and what you have to do during COVID. I'm very proud that we're still around because literally
Hospitality was the hardest hit.
Hardest hit. I mean, all of our biggest accounts, Disney, restaurants, they're all closed.
Did it help that you had grocery store distribution at the time?
It helped.
Like I heard that people were trying not to go out, so they would buy more when they went to the grocery store.
Yeah, that is not what saved us. I mean, absolutely everything helped at the time, but it was tough. We were one of the first ones that started making sanitizer, so that was a big help.
That's very creative.
Again, we were trying to swing for the fences, right? We partnered with a couple of local businesses who helped and gave some money, and we created we made hand sanitizer because you couldn't get it.
I remember
anywhere.
that. I remember like all of a sudden one day I'm working and all of a sudden there's an email from Three Daughters. It's like, and it's like, oh gosh, like hand sanitizer. It's like that's brilliant. Like you've got the ability to you can brew the sanitizer or mix it or whatever. You've got the industrial capabilities to do it. Why not?
Yeah, it was interesting.
And help people.
You couldn't get containers.
Yeah.
So we ended up partnering with a local hospital who said, hey, can you give us sanitizer? And we said, sure. Can you give us containers? And they said, sure. We literally put over 2,000 containers of urine specimen cups and gave those away.
No, that's smart.
And when you walk up to somebody and hand them a urine specimen cup, they're like, hey, whoa, what? So,
yeah.
No, but it was great. And I'm proud that we're around today to tell the story.
Well, that's really cool that you made it through that adversity. I think that's one of the biggest lessons of the story that you've shared with me is how there's no perfect plan.
Never. And whatever perfect plan you think you've put out there, your path is going to change. We have a phrase that we like to use that is fail faster, right? We're going to fail. You're going to have some challenges and setbacks, but get to them and fail and move on and don't do it twice.
Exactly. Like failure is actually like one of the greatest things that could happen. You just have to do it in a way that you don't have so much exposure.
Oh, absolutely. And when you do, you have to own it and do everything you can to change it and not get back there. There's so many stories of us doing that, new industry, new business.
What's a good one of where you guys did something and you learned from it?
So I mentioned our lab, right? We
Yeah.
have 2 rules in our business. One is quality and consistency, and the second is don't run out of beer. It's literally that simple. And in our lab, everything's tested. And we have to buy yeast, right? Because
Right.
beer has water, hops, grain, and yeast, and that's it. And we test everything coming in the front door. We pasteurize it. And we got a batch of yeast that even though we pasteurized to 140 degrees, the yeast reactivated at 142 and above. And so literally we had cans where the top would pop off. Not because it was bad, not because there was anything wrong, but because yeast, bread rises.
Right.
If the yeast
It's an
reactivated,
organism.
it was pressure.
Yeah.
And so we literally went out, we talked to every other brewery, we showed what we had found, we helped them test against it. We had to recall a bunch of beer. This was
Because
about
you're
6
probably
years
not the
ago.
only one buying that yeast.
No, of course not. And everybody had, all the local breweries had that same problem. But we put a process in place to test for it. We never did it again, right? So that's it. We got to it, we failed, we said, let us share our experience, and let's not do that one again.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, your story, it sounds to me like, it is this like the American dream, but it takes a lot of guts and courage to go through what you've done in such a high, there are barriers to entry in the alcohol business. Like the fact that you guys have the distribution you have, it really speaks to a hell of a job of sales. And actually creating those relationships and the ability to put your product out there in the marketplace. There are a ton of like burgeoning beverage companies that can't figure out how to get that done.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, first of all. And second of all, it's our team, right? If you walk around, it really is so much like a family there. And there's plenty of challenges that we all face together. One in the beer industry, at least, is you're not always master of your own destiny, right? So we can brew our own beer, but we're a manufacturer. We sell to a distributor who then sells to the retailer, who then sells to the consumer.
And you have to. That's the law.
Absolutely. It's by law. But, we need to be able to, first of all, show our value to our distributors, then to the retailers, and finally the consumer. So there's a lot of layers there.
But that's a chicken and the egg thing. So when you're talking to distributors and you've got some beverage, how do you crack that nut where you get in with a distributor? I'd love to learn that.
If I had that silver bullet, I would completely give it to you. I think it is every single day. You have to show up. You have to work with them, right? You have to show your value. If something does happen, like the story I told before, you go to them, you're the first one to identify it, you pay to bring it back. Like, you have to be a good partner every single day.
You're not going to hang them out to dry.
Of course. You're in it together, right? We're a team.
Yeah.
And when they win, we win. And when we win, they win. And you have to look at that all the way through that value chain to your retailers and to your consumers, right? And we all want to get that great product to them at the end.
Yeah, even in the time since you've been around, I can think of changes within just the macroeconomics of beverages that go in a can. When you guys started, it was craft brew, and then out of nowhere, there's seltzers all over the place. How do you keep up with those kind of trends?
Well, that was another fail faster moment, honestly. Seltzer hit the scene so quickly and so dominated by big players. We ended up making a seltzer, a couple of them, really good ones. But that was hard to crack. And you have to know when you can say, okay, I can earn that market share or not.
Yeah.
We still have amazing seltzers, but we've moved on. So now the big market is ready to drink, right?
Yeah, RTD.
Think High Noon. And so that's where we are. We've been able to penetrate the market.
Yeah.
And we have 2 flavors out there in cans that are killing it. But with everything in business, right, you just have to look at it and say, this is going to work, this isn't. And we need to double down on what is and cut bait as soon as you know that it's not going to.
So how do you create a culture that can do that can be that nimble, that can be that creative, and that can be on board when you have to adjust?
Well, I think that's hard. I think that's another thing that is every single day, right? You have to do it one moment at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. I think that is surrounding yourself with the right people. And my personal philosophy is I try to pick everyone who's smarter than me, right? And then I try to elevate them and make sure they're in a position to succeed.
So I call that leadership. So where did you learn that skill from?
Oh, I think I've had great mentors in the past that did it for me. And so now I want to pass it on to others.
That's great. Well, I know you're also a player in the community. And so how is working within the community in terms of like the overall community, not just the beer community, but how does being a presence and a part of the community help with, even like bring joy to what you're doing and like the capabilities that your business can bring forward? But how is it helping? Would you encourage people to also be a part of the community with their business?
Oh, 100%. I don't think your business survives without it, or if it does, it loses so much of the color, right? I think for us, a core tenet is to give back to the community.
Yeah.
We work with the Navy SEAL Foundation, right? We do the Frogman Feast,
Yep.
which supports the Frogman
That
Swim.
swim was just like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks
Yes.
ago, something like that.
Yeah,
Yep.
amazing, like truly. And a buddy of ours has me on tap to possibly be his kayaker next year. So he may have to save me, but yeah, no, it's great, right? And it's raising money for Gold Star families. We are huge supporters of military. You have to give back to the community. I mean, that's where your roots are. That's where your kids are going to grow up, right? That's where your
Right.
business is going to thrive. I just don't think one happens without the other.
And you've built an amazing business, and you obviously you're a big part of the community. But not long ago, you entered the Small Business of the Year competition with the Tampa Bay Chamber.
Did actually, and how we got connected. So for us, actually, that's about 8 years ago. One of our distributors nominated us as a startup business of the year. We went through the process, and I have to say the Tampa Chamber has knocked this out of the park, right? It is truly a club of businesses, and the Small Business of the Year event is letting us shine that spotlight on other businesses that are just doing great things.
One of the things that I think is just such a challenge, I think they do a really good job of it, but it's hard to compare a law firm with a brewery, with a marketing agency, with a nonprofit, but they've got a formula that I think it definitely cuts to the fundamentals of like what a good business is, and they're able to do as equal as fair of a job of like judging.
Oh, 100%. So there's several rounds that you go through, right? You have different judges on every single round. And I'll tell you, it's interesting that you say, oh, let's compare a marketing and a brewery. And one of the most interesting pitches I've ever heard was from a carpet company.
Yeah.
Truly. They sent their employees to Dalton, Georgia to learn about the fibers in the carpet. It's finding that excellence, right? And that's one thing, having been in the beer industry, having been outside the beer industry, it is someone doing it with excellence. Because I can hand our business plan off, but unless you have the culture, the community, the excellence,
Right.
you're never going to bring that to light. And so it's looking for businesses in Tampa Bay that really bring it to light, and they're just killing it from all aspects.
And sometimes people go through the process, and it is a long process. It is I would say it's one of the things that is earned. There's a lot of competitions out there in business where you can apply for a competition. They'll send you a trophy, pay the fee, whatever. But that's one that is extremely difficult to do. Extremely. Most businesses take many years to win.
Some do, absolutely. I will tell you, when we were nominated, we had just done our 3 to 5 year plan, right? So it was top of mind for us, like looking at our business and our goals and what we had done and how we were a part of the community. For us, we were lucky, right? It was
you were
top
like
of
ahead
mind.
of the game, because that's literally some of the criteria that they ask you about.
100%. And I will tell you, our experience of going through that process, we did that one. We ended up getting a national award from the U.S. Chamber. We did some other Fast 50 and so it set us up for like a domino effect of being able to be successful and to show that success, right? This is a very coveted competition. Now that I've been a part of it, first as a small business, and second on the committee, like the relationships, the colleagues, everything that you bring out of that, it's amazing. I would never go back.
One of my friends, a gentleman named Rick Gallegos, who has a Dale Carnegie franchise, I really have admired his business for a long time. I think it took them like 6 or 7 times to win, and every year they would tweak it a little bit. But he goes on to say, really the biggest winners are the people who become finalists and don't win, because the process itself is a win for your business, because you do cover things like your team, your strategies. What does your profitability model look like? It forces you to look at those things. I mean, you're, it's like so great at business. Like, you already had this plan like together. There's a lot of companies out there that don't really think about that. They're too busy like doing the blocking and tackling, right?
Oh,
And
I think you get bogged down in the everyday,
exactly.
right? I mean, when you say you guys were lucky, I mean, we were very busy trying to make sure shifts were covered and we were
Right.
pouring beers. But you have to take that time
Yeah.
and I'll say involve the whole team.
Well, I mean, didn't mean lucky. I mean, you guys, you had such great experience and worked with such great organizations that you're like, of course we're going to have a strategic plan. You know, it's like we have to have a strategic plan, right? A lot of people don't even think about it, right?
Well, it's a living, breathing thing, right?
Yeah.
I think this process, right, being involved, getting the number of mentors that you do, and it really does help you kind of focus in and go, okay, what are my goals? Am I achieving it? Where am I on that journey? So yeah, I think it's a fantastic experience.
Would you encourage people to do it?
Oh, 100%. And I'll help mentor them through it. I mean, I literally have been doing this for 8 years and going through, you look at the contacts that you have, it's just so many great people from different industries. Like, I would absolutely tell people 100% don't pass up the chance to be a part of this.
And I think, to be honest with you, I think it fulfills the mission of what a chamber is supposed to be. A chamber is supposed to be a place that can foment and foster successful businesses, right? And be resources for businesses in a community. And the process of the competition itself actually does that.
Well, and this has been around for 44 years. It's vetted, right? You look at some of the companies that have won it, and you're just in an elite environment. So, yeah, it's fantastic.
That's great. Well, I'd love to bring on our other guest, Melissa. To talk a
Speaking of
little bit more.
excellence, right here.
Your locations are absolutely gorgeous. When I drive by them, I think it's like, man, I really should be washing my car right now.
Because
it looks fun.
and think
They
the
look
same.
fun,
Yeah.
So, you were talking about the
Yeah.
Small Business of the Year. I
Yes.
actually got to judge their business and work
Yeah.
with her during the process, during application, before judging, give her ideas.
Right.
And it truly is a place where you try to encourage others to win. And so that was, for me, amazing to see her sitting here.
Yeah.
So Leigh is absolutely incredible when she talks about her community involvement and especially with Small Business of the Year, just wanting to mentor other companies. She took us under her wing to the amount that she could. And I reached out to her and I said, I want to take you up on your offer. We want to win
That's
this.
smart of you.
And can I please come by and can you walk me through what you did for a site tour, and how you did this? Because Woodie's Wash Shack, we love to go big. We go big or go home. We will put anything we can into any competition, any event, anything like that. But I do know that that can come across distasteful to some companies, and I wanted to make sure we were doing it right. And Leigh was like, absolutely. And she walked me through, and I got to hear their story and what they do in the community and how they help just give back to the community. And she actually broke down what she did do. And I was giving her ideas of what I wanted to do during my site visit.
Sure.
And she was like, great idea. Or maybe not, but she was so helpful. And we ended up winning our first year. And funny thing, when I was sitting over there while you guys were speaking about this, I don't know if you know this, but my first day on the job my task was to do the application for Small Business of the Year.
Oh, that's great.
And I knew nothing about the company. I'm researching the company I'm working for. I'm going to our website, our social media, trying to get all this information.
What a great exercise, though, because you
Yeah.
get to examine the entire, like what did people see
Yep.
when they look at us?
Yep. And I'm a hands-on and visual learner. And so I went in day one knowing more about the company than I think a lot of people in different departments knew at that time, because we were still new. We've actually only been open for 4 years. And now 4 years, and we won in 2022. And so we were still a baby company, and I was able to just dig in, get to the financials, get to the, everything that we judge on, our mission statement, the five
So how has that
criteria.
helped your career? I bet it's been huge for you at your organization.
Yes. So I am definitely a hands-on type of gal, and I learned so much. And to be honest, it is a male-dominant industry, and I am the only female that's brought to the table for any decision-making within corporate. Just because if I saw something that I didn't necessarily like, or if I notice something, because who actually has time to dig through everything when they're going through the day-to-day and they're bogged down with the day-to-day? And I found things that just didn't seem right or didn't seem to work.
But that's a testament to the process itself and like what companies get out of it, even if they're not like bringing home the trophy. I mean, every business that is a top 10 or top 5, every single one could win. Every single one of them is deserving to win just about, right? But it's that process of going through it. It's like that exercise that forces you to do it, in my opinion, that actually makes the competition worthwhile. And so like, I would encourage people to not get your feelings hurt if you don't win. I mean, and I've been there, like you guys are badasses, like y'all won right away, but you did do some really things smart.
Here's the key. You find the right mentor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the right
That's
company.
what I was going to say.
Yes.
So like the first 2 times, like the first time we did, I was like, okay, like we were working with our PR person and they were doing it. And I was like, we're so great. We can do this, all right? And so we went through and we didn't win. It's like, And so there's like this maturation process where it's like the second time I was like, okay, we're going to ask a couple more people. Wow, that's some good feedback, And then this last time when we did it and we actually did win last year, like I think I asked 12 people. I think I got perspectives of 12 past winners. And that was such a difference between the first time we did it. And I'm so glad that I did, not just because like of actually winning. I would still be happy I did that if we didn't win, but it was just the growth, the learning of actually going through and being humble enough to like actually go through that process. And I felt like I learned a lot. And so I'm grateful for the competition for that.
Yeah, we did the same thing. So during the lunch, I think we made it past round 1, the lunch on the Starship. And they had said, ask past winners. There's past winners you ask. And so that's what I did. And, I did that. And it turned out to be very beneficial, but also you get the different perspectives from everybody. So we had people that told us, don't go that big, don't be that extravagant. Right. But then we've had people that said, be true to who you guys are. So we were able to kind of compile everybody's perspective and figure out what was going to work best for us. And it was an incredible experience. And just to be nominated, I think that's one thing that people don't, and I have goosebumps every time I think about this, but just to be nominated for Small Business of the Year can do incredible things for these local businesses, for mom and pa shops down the road. And you don't even have to make it. Obviously, we want you to make it to semifinalist and finalist. And, we want everybody to win if they can. But just to be nominated.
It's an honor.
Is such an honor for these companies. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people, I kind of switched what we were talking about. But I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't think about. Like, they don't think, I had a great experience at 3 Daughters. But they're not going to think to nominate them. But imagine, what that did for your company.
I mean, even for your teammates. Like, I remember when we got nominated the last time, I remember I got an email and I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is cool. I stood up at my desk and go, everybody, I have an announcement. We just were nominated for Small Business of the Year. And it's like people were cheering and walking a little taller, leaving the business that day. And
to your point, you mentioned the process, right? You have information sessions where you get to go and get exposure to all these businesses. You have lunches where you can network with them. So it all ties to your business, right? It helps you elevate things, but then you get access to all these people that you may not otherwise. And I mean, very successful people in the community. So
That's right. And
it's a great process.
And people do business with people they like, and it's an easy way to build rapport with somebody that you might do business with in 5 years.
It's very true. I mean, I actually have been talking. I made a ton of friends through the process, and people like Leigh that I'm blessed to call my friend, but like Brian Adcock from Adcock Financial, like they're incredible. And if I ever need anything, I know who I can go to in previous winners or the committee or previous finalists, because now I'm just growing my network. And I know it's successful people, to Leigh's point. Like,
exactly.
They're all brilliant people that you come in contact with. And I am a firm believer, if we stop learning, why are we here? You know?
Yeah. No, it's a really important part. I mean, your network is your tribe. These are a group of people that want you to succeed, that are looking out for you, that are, referring like, hey, take a look at this intern. There's all different ways that like your network can benefit, and you can help them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say people from like Brian Adcock, he invited me to a summit with his team the last couple of years, and I had nothing to do with it, but he's just like, hey, come on out. Like, I've met his team, and they're incredible people. And so you get invited to things, and your network is going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And the thing, like, love Rick, and everybody is so complimentary of each other and so willing to give referrals because they know the type of company you are, because they've judged you, they know the process you're going through, even if they were not on the committee.
Yeah, I mean, and there's certain criteria on that you normally you might want to. Sometimes it's hard to put some of that stuff down in writing. Yeah. Right. But that vulnerability is actually a huge. It actually can really help you.
It takes away reservations people have if they haven't personally worked with you one-on-one, to be able to send referrals of people that they love, and people that they trust, because they know you reach certain criteria. And I cannot speak more positive things about the competition. It is a wonderful long 9 months, but it was so worth it. Like, it was so worth it for Woodie's and for myself.
So you'd recommend that people do the competition if nominated?
1,000%. I recommend people to nominate first, and nominate even if you go to a bakery, right? Like we were talking about earlier.
Because anyone can nominate.
Anybody can nominate, and that's amazing, and that's truly what makes
your Google review, your Yelp review, and then nominate them. And then nominate
it, because it truly makes it a community competition.
Yeah.
And so anybody can nominate. And if you go to a bakery, let's say you go to a bakery like every Wednesday or something like that, like nominate the bakery, like if they always have a smile on their face. You don't have to know too much about the inner works of the company, but if they are making a difference, and if they stand out, and if they put a smile on your face, nominate them, please, because what it will do for that company, if you haven't been in the competition, you have no idea, but take it from us, it will skyrocket to your point, the morale of your company and your employees, but then also just, it's going to make people want to do better in the community as well. So there's a trickle-down effect of what even a nomination will do.
So step 1, nominate others. Mm-hmm. Step 2, if you get nominated,
do the competition.
Do it. Fill out the application.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Fill out the application.
Yeah. It's worth it. And if you don't make it to semifinalists or finalists, don't get discouraged. There's hundreds of companies that do this, and try again next year, but still come to the award ceremony. Come to the gala. Come and support your local community, because just that award ceremony alone that the chamber puts on, the connections you can make there. I think
there were 500 people there.
I think so. The connections you can make, I saw people that I knew from other chambers there that were not nominated, and they were like, I needed to get a ticket to come here. Like I had to come.
Yeah, I mean, even leading up to the ceremony, of this last time, I had multiple people calling me to ask us if we had extra tickets. It was hard. It was a hard ticket to get, but you can buy it up. You can buy it now.
Yeah, and don't be like me. I waited till like the day before, and there was no tickets. And Stacy thankfully had me on a list. But if she didn't have me on that list, I wouldn't have knew. I was gonna crash it. I told her that. I was like, I'm gonna crash it one way or another. But she's like the night before, she's like, I got a ticket, and I'm like, thank you. So if I would have missed it, I'd been very sad. But it was wonderful.
Yeah. So if you get nominated, do it. And then the third step is like participate and humbly participate, right? Like really, I think it's really, really important for people to learn to don't get discouraged. Mm-hmm. Don't get your feelings hurt. There are a lot of deserving companies, and sometimes, things fall into place and you can win, or you can become a finalist or a semifinalist. And it really is something that is a beneficial process to your business, regardless of how you do.
Well, I think you said it all. Participate. Show up.
Yeah.
Right?
Participate.
It's fantastic. The things that you take away are going to be so impactful to your business.
Yeah.
And if you are nominated and for some reason you don't go to the next stage, get with everybody else who is nominated. So I love to connect with people that might have not won, but they were in the same category, or they were in a similar category, or they were the category leader. I want to connect with you people, because if you were in the category with me when I was in the competition, I know what you had to do to get to be a finalist, and I want to connect with you because we won startup. And I want to connect with you because you are in the same stages that we are. It might look different, it might be a different industry, but how can I help you? So even if you just get to semifinalist, there are tons of semifinalists.
You said it yourself. You need to be curious. You need to be an ongoing learner. And when you're plugging in with people who are at the same stage as a business as you are, those are great connections because you're learning all these things together.
Right. And we have something at Woodie's that we call dumb tax. So sometimes, rush to failure. Sometimes your brilliant plan is not going to work, and that's okay. Because when we fail, we learn. We learn what not to do.
Yeah.
But then you can share it with other people, like what you did with the yeast, the cans that were popping off. You took that failure and took it to be a learning experience to help other companies. And so that's something that you can also do if you connect with people in this competition.
Yeah.
You guys can share things like throw things off the wall and see what sticks and what doesn't stick. And you guys might be able to do co-branded partnerships or something. And these are other companies that are nominated for a reason.
Well, I've heard about this Bubbles and Brew crew. Could you tell me what that is?
Yeah, so, one of the things, as we are nominating companies, we are rewarding people for putting nominations in. They get Bubbles, which is car wash, and Brew, which is beer. So we are offering a free car wash and a 6-pack of beer for anyone that nominates over 10 people. And we also have a category for Outstanding Leader of the Year. So
how do I redeem that? How do I find out that I get my certificates for nominating?
Oh, we tell you. So we track who are
So when
doing
you
the
nominate,
nominations.
I put my name in that I'm the one that nominated?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a form. Hopefully we're going to show a QR code so people can get to the nominations page. You're going to put in your information. You're going to put in their information. We're going to track them both.
That's awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to do that. That's great.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me.
Thank y'all for coming in. Thank y'all
you.
for coming in and talking to us about it, because this is a valuable process that really more people need to know about.
100%.
Well, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leigh. Again, my name's Cord Owen, and you can find the Law of Relevancy anywhere where podcasts are found, on the Bake More Pies social media feed, as well as the Law of Relevancy media feed. We'll see you next time. Thank you.